It's coming up to 4:15, so this is the beginning of the practical assessment. This is the time I've given myself, and a few things to mention just before I do start. Clothing wise, I've tried to take exactly what I would on a February trip up to Scotland. I have made a few changes though. Normally I'd wear Paramore full trousers and jacket. They're just a little bit precious, to be honest, and I am tending to have a fire as well. So I'm using my Bushcraft ex-military waterproofs, basically my surplus waterproof. I've got an old fleece that was a frontline walking fleece, and I've got a warm mid layer. Normally I would take a down jacket, but again it's just a bit too precious to take, so I've got a synthetic, an older synthetic, but it's not too old. These are again things that I take with me, not to spend a night out like I'm going to be spending it out right now, much more to cover me for injury up in the mountainous areas where, you know, temperatures in the daytime are cold. The other thing to mention is I am intending to have a fire. What have I done with the fire? Because this is a test and we can talk about fires and when to light them, when not to light them, because obviously it can be very dangerous to the local environment. This is in the Bushcraft site. We have permission to be here. The Forest Commission asked us to have raised fires. So what I've got is I've got a raised fire. I've dug a little pit just to lower it a little bit to try and make it a little bit more realistic as to how it would be. So again, that's another thing that we're not going to do for real, so to speak. But it's as good as it's as near as damn it, shall we say. Now, I've also got a 5-litre drum of water next to the fire, and again this is for safety purposes. This is a really precious time for me of good daylight to collect resources and see what's around me, and I'm going to crack on with that. So I've chosen a edge of a spruce plantation. Camp choice is one of your major decisions, and there's a lot to think about here, and I think this will end up being a relatively nice shelter for the evening. True to hill days, I'm only carrying what I would carry in terms of calories on the hill. I always carry some emergency calories, but I'm still limited to a few bars, which is going to see me through the night and into the morning as well. Because we have this lovely day and this clear blue sky, I suspect it's going to get cold tonight. Here we are, home for the evening. I like it. It's got a nice flat base to it, but I'm obviously going to build onto that. The two trees are a little bit far apart, perhaps, but I'm hoping I'll be able to stem that and put a bit of a shelter together there as well. Ground insulation is going to be one of my big issues, so I'm going to spend time in making myself a bed. I don't think precipitation is an issue at the moment. While I am going to make sure that I have a roof over my head, it's going to be a minor consideration compared to ground insulation and keeping myself warm, basically, in that sense. Use a lot of heat through the ground. And the other thing I like about it, there was deer tracks in here, there was deer scat, there's a kill site or a pluck site just over the way. Got a real sense of the nature's here, which I've got to say I really like that. Anyway, let's crack on. So, first item out of the bag is emergency blanket. I have a use for that. On the hill, obviously, it's a great thing to make use of, a big silver thing, a big reflective thing for search parties to find you. Tonight, well, you'll find out what I have to use for it tonight. I've seen deer poo, it's warm. I've already put some of this on, protection from ticks mainly, because there will be ticks around tonight. The fire steel, again, just small, but it will do. We'll fleece that away somewhere safe. Get my head torch out now because I don't want to be benighted. I've got pockets, I'll fleece it in there. I'm going to be doing quite a lot of my work in the dark. But again, I always carry spare batteries. And my Victorinox walker, this is going to be a little lifesaver, although I'm going to also rely on a bit of brute force and ignorance to take things like wood out and things like that. Access is important, so I'm going to clear the immediate area. Also, some of this will make good tinder as well. Okay, pleased with that. I found a longish piece of a sapling that had died, but it's just not big enough. I'd like something to span that so I can make a bit of a shelter from it. I might have to cut something down. That could take a while with the little saw I have, but anyway, we need to crack on, so I will. Okay, well, I've got plenty of kindling then. What I need is some tinder though. And as I said, a long piece of timber, which I think I've roughly just found. Pretty sure this will make my roof spar be nice and solid as well. Start to see why I'd be a bit lost without the saw. I'd have to just hit on the right piece of wood that's not rotten strong enough and falling off. Easy as that. Always use good technique, keeping your non-active hand well out of the way of your sword. Last thing you need in these kind of scenarios is an injury. Obviously I've got a first aid kit with me, but these little saws are incredibly good, but it'll give you a really nasty gash if you're not careful. Okay, let's move. So that's the roof covered. I've got the kennel in. I haven't got any main wood, and the other thing I'm lacking is a bed, and that's what my next priority is going to be. I'm going to go and see where there's some decent bedding materials and see if I can spot some decent tinder that I can use the fire steel to get a fire with. Okay, so I've got an idea of where I can get bedding from now. And the other thing I've done is put my gloves on, which I should have done from the very word go. And what I've done is I've nicked my finger a little bit, nothing serious, far from it in fact, but still I've had to put a plaster on. It's taken me a bit of time to do that, and it's one of those things, you know, I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this for some time, to be fair, and this is part of the psychology of it, is just taking that step back and going, you know, what is around, what is there that I can utilize? And one of the most important things you can utilize is the things you're carrying with you, which I obviously intend to do, but you know, the gloves is an obvious one. Just spotted over there as well. And if you can see that, but a silver birch that's collapsed on the top. And I suspect not only will that be a very good source of tinder, but it should also, as long as that top's dead, and I reckon it will be a really good source of wood. I was heading actually down to another potential source of tinder. Now the problem is we've got these Scots pines next to the plantation that I'm sleeping in the plantation block, but all of the trees are very mature, and therefore I can't access the dead smaller branches, which I know contain a really good tinder. However, on the edge, they've still grown outwards, and I think I found some decent ones for getting tinder from. So I'll go sort them out now, I think. So here we go. That is dead. Now it's going to take me some time to get off, but I think that is going to be a guaranteed fire lighter. Oh. Don't know if you can see that pine there. Lovely. Yeah. Well, we've got one very good tinder source. I actually took a little one off and all, and there's some there as well, but that's beautiful. So we're getting our fire materials together. I think that's looking pretty positive now. Firewood for the evening is a different issue though, but again, when it starts to get dark, I can continue collecting firewood. So that's my firewood pile. Feeling pretty confident about that, and it's not great quality, but at the end of the day I've got a small saw, I've got to remember that. I'm now going to go check out that silver birch I saw earlier before we start to decline in the old light conditions. There's a few bits in here actually. Anyway, let's get on with it. Basically two connected at the top, although I found some smaller ones further back there. So again, that's added to my wood pile. I'm a kindling pile, to be honest. I've got more kindling than I know what to do with. So the fire side of things is looking good. Just pull that down from another tree, and there's another one over there with its head dropped off. Obviously, it's an old adage, but it's standard dead wood basically. Anything else off the ground, forget it. Okay, so some of it didn't work out as well as I would have hoped. They were just too far gone. There's no point in putting rotten stuff on it, just smoulders and doesn't do much. Although what I have found is this big tree here, and again what we can get from this is tinder basically, and in fact, yeah, that's not been long dead at all. I'm not going to try and burn that actually, although a bit of that bark will go a long way. Not a bad haul of wood, not as good as I hoped, but that's just the way it is, you know. The resources are there, that are there, and it's for us to make the most of them. Although I've still got a fair amount here for a relatively short period of time, and I think next I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on my bed. I know I'm kind of ignoring the shelter, which is counterintuitive in a way, but I have a survival bag. Not that I intend to get in the survival bag, but I can use that as a roof if needed. And it's just, there's no sign of rain. It's cold I'm more worried about, and that's what fire's going to do, is keep me warm. Tell you what, that's all right. I reckon I could do with some more. I mean, if it's really cold, the guy that put together the word wildcraft, Horace Keffart, a real hero of mine, said it really needs to be high. But obviously, we've got time constraints, and I want to get a bit of a roof on as well. But even so, that's feeling much more comfortable, and now I'm getting a little bit more ground insulation, so I'm pleased with that. And I reckon about another hour of collecting we'll have even a better setup than that. But I'm going to look at the shelter top now, just because it's actually clouded over, which I didn't expect, and temps dropping as well. So if it does start to rain, that's not going to be pleasant. So let's start working on that. So we have our trusty orange poly survival bag. Now in a mountain sense, you use this by putting it over your head and cutting a hole here as a ventilation. But tonight for me, this is going to be a ground sheet, and it's also going to be a bit of water protection as well. I'm actually going to split it. I've spent a night in one of these a long time ago. We're looking gold 25. Oh God, no, 30 years ago. God, yeah, 30 years ago. I went on at the tender age of 15. Yeah, that makes, isn't it, 45? Yeah. At the tender age of 15. I went on a survival weekend with friends, and we slept in these in really bad basic sleeping bags that only the late 80s could provide. And to be fair, I was warm. I wasn't cold, but when I did wake up, I was saturated. These things obviously aren't breathable in the slightest. So I'm going to split it. with my Knivit and turn it into a big sheet. So there we go. I've used the poly survival bag to make a shelter roof nice and quick. Now I could have used spruce boughs, but this is quick and easy. If it had been raining, that's probably what I would have done the first thing, just to give myself an area. I've just attached a, well, not even attached, I've just placed a log behind, which was too damp to burn, and used the lanyard from my emergency whistle, cut it into 3 pieces to attach it to the top. I could have used spruce roots, there's plenty of spruce around here, but it would have taken a little while. And going back to what we were talking about before, it's using the resources you've got to the best of your potential to save yourself a little bit of hassle. So I'm quite pleased with that. And now I'm going to probably get some more spruce bough actually. I've just been sort of leaning on there. It's surprising what insulation you get from it, but even so, I'm thinking that just a good handful more will help that, and then I'm going to start on the fire. So I've been at it with the saw, and I've got quite a pile now. There's less than it looks. At the end of the day, it's all generally quite poor quality wood, although there's some nice bits. I found this bit of Scots pine hung up in a tree, so that's been a useful piece, and some nice birch in there, but it's all quick burning, spitty stuff, but it will be warm and it will stick out some light as well, so should warm me up quite nicely. In fact, in here got a few more things to do. I'm going to go have one last look around for any more nice choice bits of wood I might have missed earlier, and then I'm going to get the fire going and settle down for the night. Yeah, the tent's dropping now, but I can see the stars. It's beautiful out there. Yeah, Tarn is in the distance as well, and something I've not recognised actually. Not sure what it was. A animal of some kind. So yeah, been lucky with the weather. Looking forward to getting the fire on. And I've had 1 bar so far. Got a couple left, 1 for morning. So get something to eat, and of course lighting the fire. So. But yeah, it's all going all right. Game on. So, last bits of wood now. And then can I get that fire on? This is the tinder I'm going to use. I need to process that. Might as well use it into a nice log as well. The old adage is very true. Wood warms you 3 times, or fires warm you 3 times. Collecting the wood, processing the wood, oh, and then obviously the fire itself. And there we go. Okay, got my fall reflector up, got my wood pile, getting late, it's time to light the fire, see if I can get some sleep. With that fall reflector, it ain't our fault. Everything's pretty much done. All I've got to do now is get myself into this here pit, So it's getting a little later now, about 11, and what an evening. I had the Tawnies calling around me, and it's just nice to be out here. I did not expect to be this comfortable, but a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of luck. I mean, the weather, to be fair, you don't see much of this in February, which is not what I expected. I'm going to settle down now, stick my final layers on, get my waterproof jacket on, probably get in the bivvy, keep tending the fire, hopefully head for a bit of sleep, and see what the morning brings. Bush TV, don't get better. 3 in the morning, Wood's doing alright. Snatched maybe a little bit of sleep, but I've definitely rested. Things are going well. I'm trying to get some sleep while this next section of wood burns. The dawn chorus started about, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, and I managed to snatch maybe an hour's sleep, maybe a bit more than I expected in a way. The fire died really low. That what woke me, because the temps went quite low as well. I stuck the last of the wood on, which is again quite surprising me. I didn't think it'd last as long as it has. Brought the chill out of the air, and just listening to the multitude of little birdies out there. So it's been an alright night. I could have done with a little bit more ground insulation, but to be fair, I had limited time. So I think I called it right in terms of spending a decent amount of that time in collecting firewood. I feel tired, obviously, but at the same time, I was quite fatigued by the time I managed to get down last night. And present anyway, that fatigue seems to have abated considerably. My legs don't ache anymore, lower back doesn't ache anymore. At the end of the day, I've spent a comfortable, or at least relatively comfortable night. And you know, the dawn is well on its way, and I can now navigate in daylight, which is nice, listening to the birds, being part of the nature. Breakfast. This has been on my mind for a while. This is precious to me. No, I to be fair, up until about, I had a bar about 4 o'clock, just a little bar, because my stomach really was rumbling. Right now it's rumbling as well. So that again has been I'm going to say difficult, but you know, obviously it's cold, it's February, I've not eaten a huge amount, I've exerted quite a bit. So yeah, breakfast, track bar, and cold water. Being a tea person. But yeah, the hunger didn't really kick in until sort of midway through the evening. So yeah, interesting. Don't really take away from that. It's what it is. There's only so many calories you want to carry with you, because it's weight. So there you go. When I get home though, I think I might be getting quite a little bit more than the trek bar. If I had just got my survival bag out, got into it, I'd have had a miserable evening. I really would. The fire was the key last night, without a doubt, to me being comfortable. Now, I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I did sleep, and perhaps most importantly of all, I rested, and I think that is the key to what Survival for Walkers is about. It's about being able to put yourself in a place where you can at least recover a little from the exertions of the day. This morning, I've woken up in a far fresher frame of mind. I could now go and do navigation. I could now quite competently do navigation. I could now travel a fair distance. My legs feel refreshed. My back feels refreshed. I'm no ache in the slightest right now. It's gonna give you the confidence to think if things do go badly wrong, I'm not just going to crawl up in a ball and wait for either mountain rescue to arrive. And again, if you need to call the mountain rescue, call the mountain rescue. If you can't call them, phone's dead, no signal, what do? Do you, like the guy in the shelter, just keep blindly pushing on? Do a river crossing and a swollen river and hope that you don't get swept away? Or do you just backtrack a little bit and think, you know, I need to take time out? It's a call, and it's one that isn't necessarily an easy one. There isn't necessarily that right and wrong decision. There's just a call. In the scenario that we've talked about, the taking the wrong turn up in Scotland, if the weather conditions had been like last night, I'd have had a comfortable night. I'd have been prepared for the day. I wouldn't have taken risks by traveling over ground that I didn't know in the dark. And I'd be able to face my return journey, or just to get somewhere where I can get a signal. Perhaps I would have to go into the mountains again, but I now have daylight. Different scenarios call for different solutions. And this is just another string to the bow. It's also just a great test of character, I guess, and not character, just abilities. You know, last night it wasn't super comfy or anything like that. It was well, what I could make from the nature. You know, no roll mat, no sleeping bag, just the clothes and equipment I had with me, and the time and skills I had to put in to make my shelter. And yeah, it's also one of those things I think that you just reflect on afterwards and get a sense of achievement from, to think, you know, I did it. It's good. It gives you a bit of confidence in the future that if things do go south, you've got those skills, those experiences to call upon. I'm a great believer in skills practice. I really am. Practicing skills, key skills, life-saving skills, can make a huge difference to outcomes in those life-threatening situations. So lots to reflect on there, lots to take away. Survival for walkers is not an easy thing. It's not a pleasant weekend in the woods. It's not a horrible thing either. At 4 o'clock in the morning, when it was sort of 2 degrees and you know, parts of you were cold, parts of you were uncomfortable, thinking about fires, thinking about management of fires, things like that. It's not lying in my hammock enjoying the sound of the trees. Yet there are snippets of that as well. There really are. And there was some real magical moments last night. I remember coming to from a cat nap and thinking, is there a car? It wasn't the car, it was the moon come up. And it's a bright moon at the moment, it's a close moon. And it was bright, and it was just, yeah, I'm in the woods. It's the moon. Popping out for a pee and seeing Orion blazoned across the sky. And waking up to the dawn chorus. Wonderful. So, if you fancy a challenge and you're a hill walker or a mountaineer or a mountain biker and you would like to think you can make a go of it if things go wrong in navigation, or your bike has a flat tire and you're going to have to spend a night on the hill, come along, give it a go. I ain't promising you a pleasant, wonderful evening, but I am promising you an experience, one that you'll reflect on and one that ultimately you will enjoy. So have a go. On the road again.